Hello and welcome to the Punished for Protecting Live broadcast with your host, Francesca Amato, national expert in the Americans with Disabilities Act, domestic violence and child abuse advocate, best-selling author, and founder of Punished for Protecting Incorporated. We welcome all of our viewers watching on Facebook via Punished for Protecting News and the CPS News Network. If you're watching on YouTube at Punish No More and Free to Protect, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You can also find Punish for Protecting News on Rumble. Now, without further ado, here is your host, Francesca Amato.
Good evening, and welcome to our live broadcast this evening, Punish for Protecting News. And I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and for watching this broadcast. And boy, do I have a lot to cover, and it's definitely not going to all be done in tonight's broadcast. But I am unraveling things, and it's going to take a few episodes of what I'm about to expose tonight. I gave a little taste a couple of evenings ago when we had the live with Reporting Live's very own host, Reporting Live 845, Moochie Merchant, when we talked about CPS failing yet another child. And I was doing some previous work, and I felt really strongly led by the Lord to start watching this whole Scientology thing. And it's something that other people have watched, but I was watching this and I was marveling at the connection to the family court, and that family court is indeed a cult. And I'm going to be able to prove this tonight. So please, as I ask all of you, several years ago when I first came out on social media, it blew up. I mean, it just blew up. And I was overwhelmed with the amount of people that were coming at me in every direction. And then around January 2021, was it? Anyway, 2020, 2021, something around there. I can't remember now. My days are like a whirlwind because of this type of work, but I was censored so badly, and I'm censored so badly now. And, I couldn't figure out like why I'm just one person. Am I so censored the way I am? Why is it that people try so hard to silence the truth? And I couldn't understand. I know there are people with much bigger platforms than even mine that don't get censored like I do. And I learned that there's a couple of different factors going on. Some of them are still deeply steeped and involved in the stuff that's going on. Others are using things called bots, and they pay for their, basically they pay for their algorithms, and they pay for their bots to move things along. Well, I don't do that. Every number I have is a legitimate human being. And so that is more difficult, obviously, but I want the word to get out to human beings, okay? Because I'm fighting for human beings, not bots. And I'm not paying for algorithms. Not that I could, but I'm not paying for algorithms. So what I really need from you guys, is I need you guys to share tonight's video. I need you to, and there's easy ways to do that. You simply share it. Now, you might be watching on YouTube. You may be watching this later on Rumble, because it doesn't air live on Rumble, but it will go on my Punish for Protecting News Rumble page. Or you could be watching on my regular Facebook profile, Punish for Protecting News on Facebook, or you may see it on the CPS News Network, which is where it will air as well. No matter where you see it, whether you're watching it live, comment away. Please comment. I will be posting your from. I'd like to know if you've been through this, or if you know anybody that's been through what I'm about to talk about. Some of you might be tuning in for the first time. You don't know the work that I do and what I've been doing for the past 15 years, exposing the family court and judges and CPS and foster care and the forced adoption industry and the whole child trafficking pedophilia industry, which I've been speaking out pretty much all over the nation on, and trying to get this exposed as to what it really is, which is child trafficking and pedophilia, and how deeply steeped and evil all of this is. And what I need from you guys is just spread the word. Tell everybody, send the video. It doesn't take much. Just send it as we're speaking right now. Send it to your friends list on Facebook. Just hit the right click on one of the, where it says share, and just send it to your friends list right on down. Just click a whole bunch of people and send it and tell them to send. Do the same on your Facebook posts or your Instagram post or wherever you post on social media. Just spread the word. Okay, because the first thing I started doing was exposing, to the point where I was explaining to everyone that would hear me, that this is indeed the child trafficking industry. Because I made the affiliation when I realized that, and I watched judges all over the country, and I realized that these judges were making the worst decision for children, not the best, what's in the best interest, but in the worst interest of any child or family. And then I started saying there has to be a reason that they're doing this, because this is not, oh, you guys, your minds are going to be blown tonight. I just want to tell you, your minds are going to be blown tonight, just when you see just how deep this is. And a viewer earlier, actually, I had put up a comment, a viewer earlier, I believe it's the Cricks family, they were saying that they had to turn it off when I even made that comment. And I'm trying to find what they were saying, but they're saying that the other night when you started to point out the connection between Scientology, literally blew my mind, to the point that they had to turn it off, because it's just so hard to sometimes for us to get this information and to like really make it sink in. And it's very traumatic in a lot of ways. And I'm not going to say that it's not. This can be very traumatic, what we're about to see tonight for sure. What you're about to hear. I am going to be showing parts of, I'm going to be showing, that's why I can't do this all in one night, but I am going to be showing part of the Scientology, it's called, it's actually Leah Remini Scientology and the Aftermath. And forgive me, let me just mute that for a second. And like I said, it's not going to be something that I can do in one night, because there's so much involved in this. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start showing some of this. And then I'm going to talk about how this is exactly what Family Court is doing. So without further ado, let me just show you what we have here. Now, this is the Church of Scientology. And I hope you guys can see this. It says on August 15, 2017, Leah Remini and Mike Rinder answered questions from Reddit's Ask Me Anything community about the experiences that they had at Scientology.
So we're going to do a Reddit AMA. Okay. Internet is to ask you anything about Scientology. Okay. Are you game?
We're game.
We're really game.
Let's do it.
We are told that if you reject Scientology, you will lose.
The dark side of Scientology is taking people's money.
We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Standard punishment was called the paddle. He would bend you over and then he would hit you.
Did I have any idea that this shit was going on with children? No.
It starts eating into your head. Who are these people? Why are they doing these things?
This is all this ploy to scare these people to death. Find what is precious to them and threaten them with losing it, like your family.
Since you are no longer the face of Scientology, they are. They need to be held accountable.
My mother sacrificed her own children for this organization.
If you can't keep a mother and child together, how are you supposed to unite the planet? Does that make any sense to you?
I was told, 1, build your prison, and 2, live in it.
What the were we part of?
Okay, so I'm going to pause that for a moment, because just that alone, that's like their beginning. That's their beginning intro to every episode on this particular program that she's doing, and it's the Ask Me Anything portion of it. And I've been watching these episodes, and literally my mind is blown, guys. My mind is blown, because everything you just watch there, like, how can you separate families like this? This is not just the fact that they literally brainwashed millions of people, okay, to give up their own children. There's such a price tag on our children in our country, but they willingly did it. They didn't have a judge forcing them to do it, but they had, as you begin to see, as you watch this episode with me, you're going to see how they had brainwashing. It was brainwashing. It's a full-on occult, but you're going to see how I don't know how to explain it because it's so like I'm still wrapping my head around it. I'm still blown away by it. It is exactly the same replica as the Family Court and CPS. It's the same thing. And the child pedophilia and the sex trafficking of these children through Scientology, which is the same thing we're seeing through the foster care system, CPS, family court judges, rubber stamping orders, everything being in reverse of what's right. And is there anybody left out there? Please tell me if you're left out there that you realize that this is really crazy stuff and that the absolute twisting and distortion and deception of it all and what's happening in our country overall, in America, across the globe, everywhere. Like, I want to continue to forerun the truth so people get it. I mean, we broke down so much stuff. First it was proving that it's a child trafficking industry. Then it was proving that we need to abolish it and arrest these people because these are crimes. Then we started getting onto all the story about Megan Walsh and John Walsh, how he did this to his own daughter, how he did this to his own son, how they fooled a nation. I mean, this is just ongoing deception. It's just ongoing perpetuation of harming children and families. And of course, overall and above all, and this is something that is so hard to get through the minds and hearts of people these days, because I see the children, they're just literally that great falling away the Bible has been talking about, that says that there'll be a great falling away from the truth. It's here. And even like when I work with a lot of teenagers, like years ago, you could work with teenagers and they wanted the Lord. Now they just don't believe he's just a myth to them. He's just this great myth is what they call him. And it's scary, really. And I'm just asking anybody that is a prayer warrior out there or an intercessor, believes in God, please pray for our country. Like, this is unbelievable. Okay. So let's go back to, let's just see if you guys can actually watch this with me. I'm going to see if I can flip this screen. Actually, I think it would be easier that way. Don't know how to do any of these technology things on here. No, there's not. So I have to watch it this way, but I will be also looking at your comments. Thank you for watching in New Zealand. Thank you for praying. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, thank you, Lori and Brian. Hello. Shout out to you guys. Yes, South Carolina is deep state swamp. Thank you, Larry. And thank you for sharing to Twitter. I appreciate that. Thank you, Susan Com. Thank you. Thank you, everybody that's watching. Thank you, Breezy B. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. And thank you. It is a cult. It is a cult. Now let's watch. Get ready to have your minds blown.
What was life like in York?
If you're a child, you're separated from your parents and put into a dorm with other children with virtually no supervision. You wake up, you eat communally, you are to report to work, you might get a few minutes of an education, and then the rest is studying Scientology, and then you are put to work like any adult York member. And a day usually wraps at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and that's an everyday proposition, and that's for 1 billion years.
The organization is the equivalent to the Vatican or the highest levels of any other religion. The people who devote themselves full-time, 365 days a year, they sign a billion-year contract.
And then here comes the contract out of the drawer. And they slide the billion-year contract over to me, and they say, sign the paper. And I'm looking at my mom like, is this what you call me down here for? Like, I'm pissed at this point. And then another one signed the paper. Now they're chanting, sign the paper.
So there was a specific situation that happened where my sister was defiant and wanted to see my mom. And she refused to not see her, threw a fit, and ended up on the children's RPF. It's where you're basically segregated from the group because you're treasonous. There was also different living conditions.
What was that?
It was the parking structure.
Of the Fort Harrison Hotel?
Yep. 3rd floor. 7 years old. In a sleeping bag.
thing that broke me is my wife and I went through a pregnancy that she embarrassingly aborted.
But she did so because she was told
Yeah.
to. She was told to.
Pressured to.
Right.
It's one thing to be told.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing to be pressured to.
Within the Sea Organization in particular, it was determined that children were a distraction to the clearing of the planet, and there would no longer be children that Sea Org members had while they were in the Sea Organization. That is when you started to see the heavy pressure on women having abortions who got.
There's not a man on this earth that has the right to even begin to explain what it's like for a woman to go have an abortion. But Leah, I had to sell her on it.
How does the church recruit? I've seen your show, and I know they target celebs and family members. How do they recruit randoms?
Well, if you go on a public street where there's a Scientology building, you'll see they set up these stress tests.
And they invite people to come in for a free personality analysis.
Well, the first thing is you have free personality test. And in that test, it's 200 questions, and it's called the Oxford Capacity.
OCA.
Yes.
It's called the Oxford Capacity Analysis and is used worldwide in Scientology recruitment, promising to find out how your personality determines your ability to handle relationships.
You go in, you take this test, you believe that it's a bona fide test from some legit place. It isn't. And then after you take the test, they give you the results instantly. And for that, you're sent to who?
The registrar.
The registrar's job is supposed to enlighten the person on what's wrong with them.
They enlighten you that there is something wrong, and Scientology can handle that.
Right.
Oh, really? How? Oh, well, you need to take this course. Okay. How much?
And in the beginning, it'll probably be $100, $300. It starts small. They work you into it. They don't just hit you with the big money right away.
There are these various techniques that have been developed of how you get someone to give you their money.
With allegations of children being abused, why hasn't law enforcement stepped in?
Great question. Why hasn't law enforcement stepped in? Please print this answer.
So I'm going to hold that thought right now while we're watching. Why hasn't law enforcement stepped in? Now you're going to see tremendous abuse. I've watched this program, and I'm on this one particular episode here. It's episode 14. And I figured that this was a good way to start to get, because this is sort of a summation of what I've watched in the previous episodes. And I figured it was the best way to start extracting this and showing it to the public and showing the way that it is equal to the family court and other cults. Okay. And that's why I feel family court is truly a cult under this legal guise, which is fake. And they're going to answer the question, what they understand why law enforcement isn't. But isn't this what we see in family court? Isn't this what we see? I mean, tell me by a show of comments here, how many people have not been able to have law enforcement help them when you're an abuse victim or a child abuse victim. If you've been through anything, any type of abuse or a crime that's been committed against you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even begin to tell you how many people have come to me as a national advocate and have said the same exact things, and how law enforcement has not been there to help them. And that's a good answer right there, because they're involved. And then Susan Cobb said, I had no idea. Sounds exactly like what we deal with now in family court. So that's why I'm showing this to you, and let's watch and see what they have to say about that. Thank you for keeping this live going, guys.
What is the education system like in Scientology?
Your education is Scientology. You study Scientology every day, 2.5 hours minimum. If you're a child of the sewer, you maybe have some basic math.
Beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic, there is no value placed on formal education by Scientologists. Scientologists send their kids to a Scientology boarding school at a very young age to become the model Scientology children, because there they will get the help of the LRH tech, and they will be with like-minded children from other Scientology families and won't have outside influences on them.
They told me that I was going to a place called Albuquerque, which was in New Mexico. And at that time, perhaps thanks in part to my, Scientology education, I thought New Mexico was the capital of Mexico, and I thought Albuquerque was in Canada.
So we arrive, and again, we're thrust into the cathedral. My mother goes wherever, and we're working again full time. We just cleaned all the time, really. We didn't go to school. We did do some more little Scientology check sheets in the cathedral. We began being constantly corrected because we didn't ever get trained in the cathedral. We're now on a post, but we haven't actually been trained to do anything.
You're kind of making excuses for yourself. The thing is, you were children, and you shouldn't have been working. You should have been in school.
Do you think David Miscavige is following this Reddit AMA?
Yes. Enjoy. So let's get to some of these Reddit questions.
I was blocked by Scientology on Twitter and got my account suspended last year. Should I be worried? Am I officially a suppressive person?
No, you are not a suppressive person.
And no, you shouldn't be worried. Many people beg to be blocked by Scientology and not receive their tweets.
Consider it a badge of honor.
Do you think that Scientology is dying in the internet age due to so much information about the nature of Scientology being available at people's fingertips?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also because it doesn't work. I really started searching on the internet stories of senior executives leaving the Church of Scientology. And also I was seeing stories of abuse over and over again. People being physically abused, sexually abused. I started getting enraged.
For the first time, I started to look. And now it happened.
Pausing again, because I wanted to talk about that. Now, Leah said that she does know that it's dwindling. That's a good thing. This is a multi-trillion dollar industry business. As you can see, all the abuse is being exposed. But what does that look like to you guys? Is it not the same thing that we're seeing in family court? Do we not keep seeing the faces of judges all over the place and what they're doing in their orders? Do we not see how many times CPS fails children by leaving children who are genuinely being abused in the abusive homes, and children that are not being abused being taken away and parents fighting like crazy to get them back home? Isn't family court forcing children into public school system and making up this brainwashing lie that children that are homeschooled don't socialize or what have you, when they're having a healthy socialization and a proper socialization? And now what we're seeing is a 90% rate. And people, if you don't believe me, please start researching a 90% rate of children vaping and smoking pot because they're so damaged by family court. In this case, they had no education. Of course, I believe in an education, but I believe in the right kind of education that has a moral compass added to your education, whether that be private school. If you choose to go to a public school, it should be a parental choice. That is the right way to do it. Of course, they wanted to emphasize that children were being abused more during COVID because they were behind locked doors. That was happening to children that are already placed in abusive homes. They're forced by judges into abusive homes. As you can see, also when they talked about being forced to have abortions, and the man was crying because he actually had to coerce his wife to have an abortion. Children have no value. They are treated like trash, to be discarded. Keep watching.
How could this be true? How could this be happening within this organization that I support?
I think to the point
So I can't stay in this organization any longer. If even 10% of this is true, I can't stay here. And I realize I have to resign and I have to speak out. There's just no option.
You actually had the window to the outside world when David gave you that Kindle. And at the time, we didn't know that his Kindle actually connected to the internet. So I come home and he's like, I can get on the internet.
I did it by accident. Went to Google. I thought, wow, I may have put in Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard.
Literally, earnestly.
Yeah, I thought, I'm going to see what they said about LRH or something, you know?
Right.
And he starts reading articles.
Yeah.
Every few days I'd come home and he was like, you got to see the writing on the wall. This is going south.
But it took literally one Google search for you to be deprogrammed.
Yeah.
Do you think that Scientology will ever change their views on psychiatry?
No.
No. Absolutely not. Scientology does not recognize depression as a mental illness. In fact, nothing that has anything to do with psychiatry is acceptable in Scientology.
Now, as an ADA expert, Americans with Disability Act, and what I see in the courts nationwide, the courts believe in psychology, in issues with your psyche and so on and so forth, but they weaponize mental illness as if there's something really wrong with you, like you're foaming from the mouth. When in reality, many people become depressed, and that's why legal abuse syndrome has now finally been recognized by the Supreme Court, and the courts are the ones that are causing it, which is a form of post-traumatic stress. All of this stuff it can be healed. You can be healed from it. Of course, you're going to feel depression if your children are ripped away. Of course, you're going to be suicidal. Hopefully not, depending on how strong of a person you are. But if your children are ripped away and placed with an abuser and you cannot protect them, like, hello. But what blows my mind is that I'm fighting for parents to get their children, and these people just gave them up, and they literally lived on a ship with L. Ron Hubbard to be raised by him. You put a whole bunch of kids on a ship with a man, okay, and no parents for years while they're doing manual and hard labor, okay, no school, no education, being treated like criminals, and you tell me that pedophilia and child sex trafficking wasn't happening on there. It was. Keep watching.
That is perhaps the most fundamental doctrine of Scientology, which sets up the us versus them mentality within the bubble of Scientology. That is such an integral part of trying to keep people in Scientology.
Fighting the good fight.
Fighting the good fight against the psychs. That will never change.
Taylor had suffered from suicidal thoughts, and she tried to commit suicide several times throughout her life. She'd never gotten to see a regular doctor, but she'd gotten to see homeopathic people and tried to handle her symptoms with vitamins and those types of regimens.
Yeah, Scientology.
Scientology thing is versus medication, because in Scientology, it's not an answer. It's not an option. You got to do your auditing and take your vitamins and exercise.
And ultimately, you get kicked out of the church if you said, I want to go see a real doctor, or I want to go see a psychoanalyst or a therapist or a psychiatrist. I want to be put on medication. They'd say, you're out. Yeah. And you would lose everything you've ever known.
It's the Antichrist.
And you're evil to the church of Scientology, and that's it. And then everybody you have ever known leaves your life.
I know that my brother Phil went to the 15th floor of the Green Building in Boston, which is on the university campus. He wrote the mathematical equation for his body weight times the velocity times the distance he would fall. For him to jump out of that window when everything seems like it could have been avoided, Like, you don't have to do any of this anymore. You don't have to do it. But we aren't told that growing up. We aren't told that there's another way to live.
The mental health profession should have issue with Scientology promoting itself as the cure. It is not a cure.
We are told that if you reject Scientology, you will lose.
How do gay men and women fare in the Church of Scientology?
Long question. The church will tell you that it embraces all people, that they do not discriminate, that they love gay people, and there are many gay members. It's a complete lie.
This is where we get to the real issue of, is Scientology homophobic or not? Absolutely it is. Within the writings of Scientology, homosexuality is viewed as an aberration.
There's a chart in Scientology, and L. Ron Hubbard, in short, wrote that homosexuality lands on a very low position of this chart.
1.1 on that arbitrary tone scale. 1.1 is considered to be the most dangerous tone level in society. It is considered to be a very bad state to be in. In fact, Hubbard said that society would be better off if all of those people were corralled up and put on an island somewhere away from the rest of society.
This band of person where homosexuality is charted is called covert hostility. And Scientology says you are the worst kind of person. You are sadistic, you're a backstabber, you want people to secretly fail in life. You are the person who smiles in someone's face in the back. So the answer to the question is yes, there is a lot of psychological damage done to people, men and women who are gay.
I walk into the parking lot and the security chief from OSA Int comes up and says, Aaron hung himself last night. And I said, did he die? And she said, yeah. I don't know if he was struggling with his sexuality, if he was gay, or he never communicated anything like that to me.
He wouldn't really be allowed to.
He wouldn't be allowed to, and he was born and raised essentially in the Sea Org, and anything other than being straight and in a regular
monogamous
relationship, it's wrong. I wish that I could have told him, you can tell me whatever you need to tell me. And I thought that he knew he could be open with me. But at the same time, it would have always been Scientology's answers.
So let's get to some of these Reddit questions.
What has been the biggest change and challenge in your life since speaking out against your former church?
I think the challenge has been trying to effectively help people. They're saying the only reason you're feeling this way about the church is because you are connected to suppression. Even though you're saying, no, because something happened to me. It's gaslighting. It makes you absolutely insane. Somebody reached out to me and said they want to tell their story, but not on television. The story that she's telling me was that she was molested when she was underage. In a way, I'm glad the cameras are here because this is what Mike and I do all day, all night when the cameras are not rolling. And our job is to simply be there for them as much as we can. It's not easy to sit day in and day out and listen to people's pain without being enraged, where we just want to help in doing something. I think that's been the most difficult, is just listening.
She had nowhere to go to get real help. So I wanted to try to give her support, but I was scared. And I let that fear control me. I wish I hadn't.
Lauren.
I didn't do what I could, so...
But Lauren, in the frame of mind of a Scientologist, you believe that there was nothing you can do. You know, being outside, Mike knowing what he knows now would never allow his children to be in Scientology.
No,
so we understand, but sitting here, seeing your pain, I can't allow you now to blame yourself or to think you could have prevented it, because you couldn't have. You were also in a prison at that time.
Yeah.
Do you think your efforts will result in any meaningful departures from Scientology?
Meaningful departures mean to us any person. And yes, that has already happened. That is where our focus is.
I'm Ramina Nunnally, and I was a Scientologist for 42 years. And I was in the Sea organization for 26 years. And I just walked away from Scientology after seeing Leah's show.
When was that?
That was 2.5 weeks ago. Going Claire started the process. It was this show that clinched it. Miriam, oh my God.
My dad is caring for us, and he's a single parent essentially. During this time, he begins to sexually abuse me. And at one stage, I contacted my mother to ask if she would be willing to provide a statement to assist in the case. My mother sacrificed her own children. She has given up her own children for this organization. I cannot reconcile with that. I had never asked my mom for anything my entire life. This was the one thing I needed her to help me with. The one thing, and she couldn't do it.
I know Miriam's mom because I was in marketing up at Gold, and we had been working together for quite a few years. And I thought, this is crazy. And that's when I decided, that's it. Enough is enough. I'm not a Scientologist anymore.
Are there any efforts in place to stop the practice of Scientology?
No, there are efforts in place to stop the abuses of Scientology.
The thing is, we're a documentary series exposing Scientology abuses.
At the ranch, there was hard labor. I mean, it was hard labor. As punishment, they threw me in the lake with my only dry, warm clothes.
And then the punishment for us was 200 Suzy Qs, those military push-ups, in horse shit, was the exact wording that he said. And so they took us out there, stripped us down to our underwear, had all of the kids surround the horse corral. And there was a large pile of horse manure, very fresh, and they made us get in there and do Suzy Qs in the pile.
Oh my God.
Is it all him? No, because you've got the backing of policy now.
So all of this is done on the backing of policy. Sound familiar? What else did we heard? Policies, practices, and procedures of Family Court, right? No different than Scientology or any other cult that's out there. We'll be back after this intermission. I have to go to an intermission, quick commercial break. So please stay tuned, and we'll be back with so much more of this.
We'll be right back after a message from Punished for Protecting Incorporated. Each new generation of protective mothers is shocked when they first go to family court and find it doesn't favor single mothers and is willing to jeopardize children. Francesca's harrowing experience with the broken family court system, from which she finally received justice after 8 months of struggle, is proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Francesca has one of these unspeakably cruel cases and has responded by shining a large spotlight on widespread failures so other mothers won't be shocked. Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court by Francesca Amato Banfield, advocate, mother, whistleblower, founder, and TV talk show host of Punished for Protecting. If you are struggling with injustices wrought by our courts, this book will help guide you through the process. Available on Amazon.com. Search Punished for Protecting and get your copy today. Help abolish family court by purchasing Punished for Protecting merchandise. Here are our top sellers. See the link in the YouTube video description to find out how to get your Punished for Protecting t-shirt. Get your high-quality Punished for Protecting t-shirt while supplies last, and let everyone know that you stand for justice. Are you being re-victimized by the family court system? Do you need help with your case? Go online and book a talk with Francesca. Go to punished4beingAparent.com/book-a-talk. Fill in your name, email address, and message to Francesca. Someone will get back to you within 24 hours. Francesca and her staff of volunteers continue to work tirelessly every single day for parents and children who are in need of their help. There have been multiple success stories, including Francesca's, which gives hope to others in similar situations. Punished for Protecting Incorporated has incurred out-of-pocket expenses with zero funding to help families get their children back or to save their children from being taken. We also have provided funds to help with retainers, food, lodging, and travel. We really need your help so we can continue to provide our many services. Any amount is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to donate or sponsor a family in need of help, go to Cash App, Free the Children. And now back to our broadcast.
Well, thank you for watching that and welcome back. And yes, anyone that wants to sponsor a family, because I do get outrageous amounts of calls and messages from people that need my help. And a lot of times people cannot afford, to pay for this kind of help. And even though I'm extremely inexpensive, I do over $270,000 a year in free work, and it doesn't come from money; it comes from myself. So we do need, that kind of help in order to take people, because I can only take so many. I'm one person, even though I have a team behind me. I'm still the person that's in the front lines. So please be aware of that. And also thank you for spreading this message and spreading these videos, because it really does help people to get informed and understand what's happening. And now let's go back to the program.
The people who appear on our series are telling the public and telling people whose job it is to do something about it, their stories. And so, yes, we are trying to do something about it.
I absolutely swore that I would never have an abortion. I wanted kids.
If you were in the Sea Organization and you got pregnant, you were expected to have an abortion. The church claims that pressuring women to have an abortion has either never happened or doesn't happen anymore. The truth of the matter is, it is a mortal sin to get pregnant as a Sea Org member, because that means you will have to leave the Sea Organization and thereby break your billionaire contract.
It's like that's all I've been thinking about for the last 5 years was my family. I mean, that's all I was trying to do. And I went through hell to try to save that family and went through such mental brutality.
I want to give a voice to these stories enough that people will be incensed by it to put some pressure on this organization to stop abusing people. I'm going to tell these stories in hopes that people wake up and go, okay, somebody needs to do something about this cult.
And somebody needs to do something about the cult of family court. I do want to say that I am very inspired by other advocates that do this kind of work, that expose and are able to help take down an empire like Scientology. And is exactly what I've been trying to do, is take down the empire of family court and CPS and the entire thing, the entire empire, because that's what it is. It's family court, CPS, and what is it? It's child trafficking. It's the child trafficking industry. It's the family and people destroyer, right? And so unfortunately, she has a huge platform and she's able to do this. I, on the other hand, have been censored and I'm not a name like her. And therefore, we do on our end need help to be able to get this message out more powerfully and in a bigger way, because I see a lot of people now following suit and telling their stories more and getting stuff blown up on TikTok and things like that. And even some other people who have, kind of shared this message, but they don't really understand the fullness of the message because they haven't been doing this as long as I have, or others that preceded me. So anyway, let's get back to this part because this is going to blow your mind.
What do you think about young actresses who are preaching feminism and equal rights when they're also part of the church? Isn't it counterproductive?
Hypocritical.
Could you imagine a man answering that question before I even had a chance to answer? That says a lot. Pretty typical of a man. Let's take another Reddit AMA question.
Do you or Mike ever feel you are or could be in imminent danger due to their attack policies?
Imminent danger? No, never.
Speak for yourself. Hey, dude, don't touch him.
Yeah, don't touch me.
I know that there is going to be people who will say things that are just outrageous, made-up lies in order to try and discredit me. That's the standard policy of Scientology. Why are you following me?
I'm calling the police.
Good, go ahead. Why are you following me?
Call the police.
Why were you taking video of us?
I'm waiting for a friend, man.
Why were you taking video of us?
Don't do that.
You're not a private investigator? Is that what you're going to tell me? You're going to tell me that you're not a private investigator?
You see these two cars parked in the parking lot there?
Yeah.
Look, they're just totally staring at us. You know what I mean? Here you go. Go ahead. No, we're good. 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 Go ahead.
Watch this. Hey, buddy. I'm good. Who are you working for?
Yeah, right. Okay. Piece of shit.
Leah, I remember an interview with you before you left Scientology. In that interview, you were using Scientology jargon and speaking about your daughter as if she was an adult. What impact, if any, did raising your daughter in Scientology have on her and on your relationship with her?
My daughter was not raised in Scientology, and I did not use the jargon of Scientology on my daughter. One of my Scientology friends wrote an internal report on me because I wasn't using Scientology terms on my baby.
That is such an integral part of Scientology.
So KR is a knowledge report, which means it's kind of like a chit or writing up somebody's done something wrong. So one kid kind of ratting out another kid.
And at 8, you guys are writing reports on each other.
Yeah. Okay. And so if you didn't like a kid, you'd write a KR on him, even if he didn't do it.
A lot of Scientology is based on narking on each other and writing internal reports.
You know, when wives write reports on husbands, when mothers write reports on children, when children write reports on
their parents,
you lose all trust.
I get told I'm going to be declared if I don't disconnect from my mom.
So what happens?
So for
Now that's the part I want to talk about. So they're having them do something that's called auditing. So what they do is they put they've actually put kids in rooms with pedophiles and they audit each other. Auditing just means you're counseling each other and they ask horrific questions to each other that they're supposed to ask, which we'll get to that. Like I said, we can't fit this all tonight. But you see how they try to pin the family members against each other? The family court does the same thing. But the way they do it is, it's very different than this. It's very demonic and very clever. They have people that are called attorneys for children, right? Or guardian ad litems. And that person will question a child that's being abused by their abuser. And then when they admit that they're being abused by that abuser, if they're not afraid to admit the truth because they've already disclosed and everybody ignored them, like happens here in this cult, because they're completely saying they ignore everything that's abusive, just like family court, just like CPS, no different. The guardian ad litems or the child attorneys come in without the children, okay, and they say child is doing fine, nothing to see here, everything is fine. And I know there are multitudes of you that can relate to that. Keep watching.
the year I pretend to be disconnected from my mom.
And you weren't?
No.
Oh.
Eventually I get turned in.
By whom?
Our kid's nanny.
Shut the So she found out, like what? She saw
The kids would make comments that made it seem like they were still seeing their Gigi.
their grandma.
Yeah.
Like grandma this, grandma that.
She wrote it up and turned it into the church.
So she wrote a knowledge report.
Yeah.
On you.
Yeah.
This question is from Mike. After you left your position with Scientology and began to expose things, how long did it take people to truly believe that you actually left? And how hard was it trying to make things right with the people you tried so hard to publicly destroy?
That's still an ongoing process, and this show is part of that process. Part of my job was to discredit and destroy critics who spoke out against the church. If the church believed that someone was an enemy and needed to be silenced or destroyed, it was my job, and I did it.
You and the Church of Scientology have been spying on the BBC.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing to do with
it. A bit paranoid.
Was I being paranoid?
No, you were being followed.
We were being followed.
Yes.
And who gave the orders to follow us?
It would have come under my purview if I was told to follow someone. I made it happen. Everything from following them 24 hours a day to having people camped outside their home to being vilified on the internet. I was the guy.
I used to think Mike was evil. How could you not be evil?
No, he is evil. No, he's evil.
Scientology has threatened me. I've gone through my trash. They've had people in Nazi uniforms picketing outside my office, telling my neighbors what an evil person, I'm an anti-religious bigot. I have to tell you, I was scared shitless of you for so many years.
You were gaunt, you were wearing a gray suit, and Jillian, our assistant, gave you a nickname, which was Mr. Scary.
Well, Mike is taking responsibility, unlike the Church of Scientology.
I can only try and explain this was my mindset at the time.
No, I've come to understand that, and I've never needed apologies from you. Because
you're not just journalists or people that I happen to have an interaction with at some time. I consider that all of you are friends of mine now, like personal friends.
I love that you are modeling for ex-members of thousands of other cults, that you can be a leader. You can do horrible things and you can wake up and be a human being.
You could do horrible things and then you can wake up and be a human being. because obviously this is an empire. Like I said, it's a multi-trillion-dollar empire. Cult, Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. You see the people, like if you watch these episodes, you'll see a lot more people coming forward, have been coming forward. Obviously, she's got a great size platform. This is on Netflix. And people came out of it. And those that were actually perpetrating the abuse to others, including children, including their own children, he came out of it. Others have come out of it. There's hope. Okay. We've been successful in protecting children from family court. We've been successful as a very, no, I'm not, I'm well known in a lot of places and I'm not well known in a lot of places is the point. And we've been successful. How much more successful can we be as a nation? How much more successful can we be as a globe? If more people, we don't have the finances that they have. I don't get government grants. I have a nonprofit that I don't get anything from the government whatsoever. This is a huge fish to fry, my friends. This is an empire, the family court, this family court cult, the child trafficking industry cult. I need your help to expose, to get more people educated, to understand that this cost me my life, literally cost me my life. Not that I died, my life alive, because I've given up everything to do this. And I need people's help. And I've been censored. I've given away everything I have to do this. I give up myself to do this. We have success stories every day in these horrible courts that are still open, that still have people's children, that still have people in bondage. And that's why I say, I need your help. I need your help to spread the word, to put $10 on a Cash App, to sponsor a family, to pray for this organization and the members that help us to fight for families that get nothing like I get nothing for it. We need help. I have gotten and I get still outrageous amounts of people needing my help every single day, every minute. If everybody stepped up, we'd have the same success stories that they're having, where they're taking down the empire of Scientology. We could be able to take down the empire of this horrible, you guys talk about the Illuminati, you talk about all this stuff. You're still chasing a politician, which we'll get into that. We'll one day we'll do a whole thing on that. And it's like I say, can you know how to turn on notifications? You know how to share something? I mean, you're on social media 24/7. It's a simple thing to do. It's a simple thing to do. Just think about it. Let's go back to the episode.
Law-abiding human being.
But I feel it's important to tell the truth of what really goes on behind the scenes, what really is happening in Scientology. If I can help one person who I may have harmed in the past, or prevent someone from being harmed in the future, of one family, just one, who is torn apart because of the practices of Scientology, it's worth making it known and hopefully preventing that.
The peeps over at Scientology headquarters are definitely reading this Reddit AMA. Anything you'd like to say to them?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Where do you think Michelle is?
Shelley Miscavige?
Yes.
Shelley Miscavige is I don't know. I mean, that's why I filed the police report. In 2006, I was invited to Tom Cruise's wedding. All of the top clergy of Scientology are there. It was a big deal for the church. And then I'm innocently standing by this fireplace in this big castle in Italy. And I said, hey, where's Shelley? Shelley Miscavige is the leader's wife. This was being called the wedding of the century. So it was very weird that she wasn't there. And their reaction was like, I mean, that's the leader's wife. You really shouldn't be asking about her.
I saw her get in trouble, and she would disappear during portions of the day, and I sort of surmised that she was being security checked. You know, I could see the terror in her eyes. I think she said something, Miscavige found out, and suddenly he had this person who was his wife who, holding the electrodes of the e-meter in her hand, voiced it, and that was it. The axe fell, and then she just sort of disappeared very shortly thereafter.
Why?
Because she's been too intricately involved with him and probably knows things that he just doesn't ever want known. So he's just going to keep her quiet.
If David were to step down as head of Scientology, would we see any sort of change in the church, either for better or for worse?
No, you would not see any change.
Scientology is 100% controlled by the writings of L. Ron Hubbard.
Called policy.
And he is dead. So he cannot change his writings, and nobody else has the authority to do so.
Is it true that David Miscavige is bad? Yes. But if David Miscavige wasn't there, they would grab Guillaume Reserve and they, give him a shower and put a suit on him, and then he would carry on the same legacy, because that is what Scientology teaches. So they are only upholding L. Ron Hubbard's policy.
What do you think will ultimately take down the Church of Scientology?
Its own activities.
The whole is a building that David Miscavige designated at the international headquarters of Scientology in Hammett, where myself and eventually about 100 people were locked in 2 double-wide trailers, sleeping on the floor, eating slop, to beat one another up until they confessed to their crimes.
Yeah, I saw Dave Miscavige physically beat Mark Yeager, who was a very high church executive, and Mark Fisher. I saw him physically hit these folks. You just don't forget stuff like that.
David Miscavige physically assaulted me 5 separate times. The most famous one, I think, and Mike was there, I had written an infomercial for Dianetics. I had sent it up to Miscavige. I get called up to the conference room. He starts reading from my script and making fun of it. And I said, sir, if I can just explain. And he goes, see? You see how he talks to me? Then finally, he jumps up on the table, launches himself at me, knocks me back against the partition wall, throws a hammer in my face, knocks me down on the floor. I was scratched up. My shirt was ripped off.
What is everybody in the room doing?
Just
watches silently, because you don't want to do anything that will attract attention to you so that you're the next one.
And then there was one time when I was in my offices and he came down, he was talking to us, and he just flattened me, knocked me on the floor. And he said, you know why I did that? And I said, no, sir. And he said, to show you who's boss.
To show you who's boss. When you go to court, who's boss? Is it the judge? If you try to speak about what you're going through, if you've been abused or your children have been abused and you speak about it, what happens? You may not get a physical beating for it. You may, from your abuser, but from the court and the court's players, don't you get a beating? Don't you take a beating? Don't they threaten to take more away from you and successfully take more away from you? Similarities? Can someone else maybe, comment about that? Are there any other comments regarding what's happened to people in family court? Is it similar? Do you guys feel that it's similar? What do you think? What do you, I'd like to hear your comments. I filed a DV situation, 8 months pregnant I fled a DV situation, 8 months pregnant for better, and within a year, he followed me. I've been stalked, harassed, bullied, triangulated, and just slaughtered over 10 years. Family court vexatious litigation started 2014, the end of 2016. I retired early because the interference and damage was too much and my babies needed me. It wasn't until I had Zero, that I was abandoned. $0. My daughter explicitly explained the sexual assault her father did to her, and they said nothing about it in court. So many celebrities are in Scientology that's so they can help brainwash the media, public, and then distract them from the truth. Family Court, DSS, CPS, and paid affiliates of that, they abuse the same way. Yep, and it just goes on and on and on. I'm trying to see some more. There's some new ones that just popped up, and I'm trying to find it. Jody says, I was trained to use Dianetics from Scientology in the Gin cult I was in for too long. They taught me all I know I used in my life coaching business before I learned it was a cult. Born into organized crime, trafficking, i.e. trafficking, and my child born of rape. My child was given to the trafficker who is here illegally and he has raped minors. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I want you guys to watch the ending. There's only a little bit left here, about 6 minutes, okay? And we'll do a wrap up. But if anybody has any questions or statements, please put them in comment before we wrap up this evening. Denial.
You can't set this on camera, right?
Nothing happening. All
right. So let's get to some of these Reddit questions.
I have a family member who has been in the church for a number of years, and now she has distanced herself from us. What are some ways to reach out to her and show her we care about her?
You have to fight for her. You have to fight.
I have to hold that thought right there. That was one of the parts I really wanted to talk about. She's gonna talk more about it. And this is important for those of you who've had your children adopted out or your rights terminated. Listen carefully. Listen carefully, because this inspires me. Okay, and I need to be inspired too, because I'm the one out there inspiring others, right? And I need to hear the inspirational stories. And this is a major inspirational story for me that Leah has done. Leah Remini has done this, and obviously she's, like I said, she's got a huge platform, but she says you have to fight, and you have to keep fighting. You must keep fighting. I wake up every day knowing that I'm in a fight, and I'm not going to stop being in a fight. I'm in a fight, and we have to keep fighting. And that is so important, because you plan to win the fight.
Yeah. I used to say different things. I used to say, be kind, just be there for them, but that doesn't work. You have to fight. You have to shove the truth in their face. You have to say this, look at what's going on, look what has been going on. You were children. Both of you. All of you there. Children. And you were victims. I hope that even one parent in Scientology or any other cults wakes up and realizes, I need to protect my own.
If people could just see behind the curtain and see that Scientology did nothing but create complete destruction of my childhood, of my entire family. Their policies caused this.
And it's the same thing with Family Court. They cause destruction. They cause destruction. They do not help. It is a cult. It is indeed a cult.
This destruction is Scientology. In the end, this family lost it all. The whole family has disintegrated because of Scientology. You have to fight
or
for your
because of
parents,
Family
you have to
Court.
fight for your children. I don't care what cult you're in. I don't care what religious theology you believe in, but you need to protect your family. You need to protect your children and the people that you claim you love.
How often do you meet shattered families that have been able to be repaired after Scientology? Are there any?
Yes, many families have been reconnected.
I went down there in front of the house.
in front of her house, and I just scooped her up and hugged her like I don't think we've ever hugged before.
If I can say the F word, she said, everybody, everything. We said, it doesn't matter if they want to declare us to the moon and back. They are not winning. They are not ripping us apart. We started seeing each other every day. Every day.
She called me and said, I want to do the show. And my whole world changed when she called me. Something inside of me was like, oh my God, I never thought I'd have my mom back.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I know you are. It happened.
I told you when you were in my womb that I would protect you and love you forever. I'm just so glad I have you back. I caused horrible things to my children to happen. That's what it did to me. Just what this church did to me. It made me think that nothing else mattered. Well, guess what? No church is a church if they condone, advocate that family members split up and disavow each other. No church no decent church would do that. How could they be considered a church?
And I want to end this episode, and obviously we're going to do more, with no court is a court if they dismember families, if they separate children from their biological loving families. This is not a court system. It's a. And thank you tonight for watching. I really appreciate you all being here. Please share.